Hello, here is the homework for February 21st. We're solving quadratic equations by factoring. Starting with number 1. So remember your first step when you're solving by factoring is set it equal to 0. That's already done for us. Second step is to factor it. That again is already done for us. Third is we're going to set each of our factors equal to 0. So x plus 3 equals 0, x minus 5 equals 0, and then we're going to solve both of these equations for x. So here we're going to subtract 3 from both sides, make it x is equal to negative 3. On the second equation, we're going to add 5 to both sides, x is equal to 5. For number 2, again, it's already set equal to 0, it's already factored. We're going to take each factor and set it equal to 0. Make this look a little bit more like an x. So for 3x minus 4 equals 0, first step, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. I get 3x is equal to 4. Then I got to get rid of that 3. We're going to divide it off. And I get x is equal to 4/3. That's one answer. For my other equation, I've got negative 6 on both sides. I get x is equal to negative 6. Second answer. All right, number 3, it's set equal to 0. First step done. Second step, we've got to factor this guy. So my greatest common factor between x squared and 7x is x. What times x will give me x squared? That would be x. What times x gives me negative 7x? That's negative 7. I'm going to set that equal to 0. Now I have my two factors, so I'm going to split it up. So x equals 0, or x minus 7 equals 0. Over here, x equals 0, that's already solved. Second one, I'm going to add 7 to both sides. X is equal to positive 7. Number 4, again, I've got to factor out my GCF. What's common to x squared and negative 4x is x. What times x will give me x squared? That would be x. What times x gives me negative 4x? That's negative 4. And that's equal to 0. Now that I've got it factored, I'm going to split them up into my two factors, x equals 0, and then x minus 4 equals 0. For that one, I need to solve for x. I'll add 4 to both sides. My second 0, my second solution, my second root. Remember, those things all mean the same thing, is x equals 4. All right, for number 5, we have to do our first step for this one. So for this one, it's not set equal to 0, so I need to move this 12 over to the other side by subtracting it. So x squared minus x minus 12 equals 0. Now I want to factor that guy. Let me do my factoring in a different color. I'm going to do a slightly darker color. So here, I've got negative 12 times x squared, that's negative 12x squared. And then negative x on the bottom. I'm looking for two numbers that subtract to negative x, and the bigger number needs to be negative. So multiplies to 12, subtracts to 1. That would be 4x and 3x. Putting it in my box, I've got x squared, negative 12x, first term, first box, last term, last box, negative 4x, positive 3x. What's my greatest common factor between x squared and 3x? That would be x. X times x is 3x, x times 3 is, x times x is x squared, x times 3 is 3x. X times negative 4 would be negative 4x. Does negative 4 times 3 give me negative 12? It sure does. So that's my correct factorization. There we go. We've got x minus 4, x plus 3. Now that we have it factored out, we're going to split those factors up, set them both equal to 0. So I've got x minus 4 is equal to 0. X plus 3 is equal to 0. For my first equation, I'm going to add 4 to both sides, and I get x is equal to 4. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides on the other equation, and get x is equal to negative 30. All right, for number 6, Again, this one, it's already set equal to 0, so we just need to do our factoring. So I've got negative 10x squared in the top and 3x in the bottom. We're looking for two numbers that subtract. So multiplied in negative 10, subtracted 3. So 5 and 2 would subtract a 3. Since 3 is positive, I want the bigger factor to be positive. So I've got x squared in my first box, last term, last box, and then we've got negative 2x, 5x in the middle. My GCF of the first row is x. X times x gives me x squared. X times 5 gives me 5x. X times negative 2 gives me negative 2x. Does negative 2 times 5 give me negative 10? It sure does. So I've got x minus 2 as one factor. X plus 5 is my other factor, setting it equal to 0. Once I've got it factored, then I'm going to split up those two factors, set them both equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0, or x plus 5 equals 0. For the first equation, I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and we get x is equal to 2. For the second equation, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, and I get x is equal to negative 5. All right, moving on to number 7. For number 7, first question, is it set equal to 0? It is not. So we're going to move the 3 over, and we get 8m squared minus 10m minus 3 equals 0. Now we need to factor this guy. I've got 8 times negative 3, that's negative 24m squared on the top. On the bottom, I've got negative 10m. I'm looking for two numbers that subtract the negative 10, and they multiply to get to 24. So 1 times 24 isn't going to do it. 2 and 10 would subtract, or sorry, 2 and 12 would subtract to 10. Since 10 is positive, or 10 is negative, I want the bigger factor to be negative. My smaller factor is going to be positive. Putting it into the box, I've got first term, first box, 8m squared. Last term, last box, that's negative 3. And then negative 12m, positive 2m in my other two boxes. All right, my GCF for the first row, they both have a 2 and they both have an m. What times 2 gives me 8? That would be 4. What times m gives me m squared? That's 4m. All right, then what times 2m gives you 2m? That's 1. What times 4 gives me negative 12? That's negative 3. Does negative 3 times 1 give me negative 3? It sure does. So this guy factors out to 2m minus 3, 4m plus 1, and that's equal to 0. All right, so I'm going to split this up, set them both equal to 0. For this first one, we're going to add 3 to both sides. We get 2m is equal to 3. And then we're going to divide by 2, and m is equal to 3 halves. For the second one, first, we're going to subtract 1. Well, that was an interesting change in color. We got 4m is equal to negative 1. Then we're going to divide by 4. We get m is equal to negative 1/4. So those are our two answers for 7. All right, same process for number 8. Again, it's not set equal to 0 first, so we're going to subtract 7 from both sides. We get 5x squared plus 34x minus 7 is equal to 0. So I've got negative 7 times 5, that's negative 35x squared, and positive 34x on the bottom. Since we're negative on top, it's subtraction. Two numbers that multiply to 35 and subtract to 34 would be 35 and 1. Since 34 is positive, I want my bigger number to be positive. My smaller number, which is 1, is going to be negative. Putting it into our factoring box, first term, first box, last term, last box. And we got negative x, 35x. All right, looking at the first row, common between 5 and 35 is 5, and they both have an